Hey, my name is Bex, and welcome to Getting Emotional. Every week I'll be discovering a brand new emotion, or rather, I'll tell you about an emotion you may well have felt, but had no idea there was a name for. This week, it's Mudita. Sometimes other people just win at life. Often they're people you're not that bothered about, but you think they're alright, so you don't care too much apart from doing the cursory and polite like on their Facebook status. Sometimes they're people you don't like at all, so you're not that excited for them, or a little bit jealous perhaps. But other times, they're people who you love very much. People who you think the world of, who love you to the moon and back, who are your favourite person on planet Earth. Sorry, that got a bit spacey there, didn't it? A lot of weird space metaphors. And there's a word for the joy that you feel on behalf of another person. Mudita. It's a feeling of vicarious joy, and so far in my researching of emotions, this one seems to be one of the most wholesome I've found. There's no self-interest or envy, there's not even any pride, because that kind of would imply some ownership over the person and their success. It's pure and simple happiness, delighting in another person's well-being and good fortune. And look, it's a sweet idea, but I would wager it is harder than it actually sounds to feel, because, and this might be risky to say, I've definitely seen friends do well in life, but I'd be lying if I said I'd always felt a pure joy for them. Sometimes they're achieving what I want to achieve, or I just feel like they don't deserve it. That might be the most honest thing I've ever said. Anyway, probably for that reason, it is often seen as an emotion mostly relating to families, siblings, parents, children. Maybe it's easier for them to feel it. The word is mostly associated with Buddhism, although the concept of it was actually written about in the Bible in Romans and Corinthians, go look it up. And the idea is it's something that's kind of inside of you that has to be cultivated. A little pot plant of joy, if you will. And if it is cultivated, it will help lower your tendencies of jealousy, envy and aggression. This dormant, unselfish joy, if cared for, can awaken other feelings and compulsions of kindness inside a person. I think eventually the hope is that you'll get to a place where you can feel this joy for as many people as you possibly can, not just the one or two that you know best. Edward Conze, a scholar of Buddhism, and also previously Marxism, so we won't delve too deeply into him, thought that to truly experience Mudita, you have to have a base level of appreciation for that person. If you don't appreciate them, how can you truly celebrate them? Between you and me, I've got a feeling I could do about 10 podcasts on Mudita and the Buddhist views around it, but I will probably not, because what I'm more interested in is talking to people who've actually felt it, and luckily, I know just the people to ask. I mentioned it was a feeling often found in families, and I know some sisters who have lots to celebrate, and who I also know share a deep level of joy, support, and love for each other. They very kindly let me take a bit of a deep dive into their relationship, how it had developed, how they'd supported each other, and the sometimes rocky road it had taken to get to a place of feeling Mudita.
Hello, I'm Stevie and I'm a writer and a comedian.
Hi, I'm Gina. I'm a campaigner and a writer and a speaker, and I'm most well known for making upskirting a sexual offence in England and Wales.
So you're both very, very successful in your own respective ways, and it must be quite nice to see each other do so well in life. Stevie, can you tell me, do you look at Gina with awe? Are you delighted for everything she's done?
No, I hate her. Yes, of course. So I have always wanted Gina to... It sounds really lame and really trite, but I've always wanted Gina to achieve. But when we were little, I was always thought of being like the academic one. And like I would always get like A's, and then Gina would, still do well. But Gina often would feel like she wasn't. And so when we started to become like, normal people outside of an education, I was always so desperate for Gina to find something that she loved and to kind of succeed. And so she worked in advertising for a while, and I was so proud of her doing that. And then when she got upskirted, which she'll talk about, I'm sure, she then made upskirting a sexual offence, and that took like 2 years of her life, so much stress. And when it happened, I remember thinking, like, over the course, it was very long, it wasn't like a moment, but over the course of the 2 years, I remember being like, God, I'm so proud of it. And then my second thought being like, that means I'm a nice person because I'm proud of her in a really pure way. I say pure. So that was my feelings.
That's nice.
Well, it's a very pure emotion. Gina, you must have felt this with Stevie, and also was it, Stevie's your big sister, I guess. Did you look up to her when you were younger?
Yeah, because she was always, like she said, she was always really academic and really clever. And when I was in school, like that, you don't have any context of anything else. Like that's like, I guess that's all you do, isn't it? Go to school and then come home and talk about school and then go back to school. And I like really wanted to be good at stuff, but I was very average. And I remember being like not upset about being an average learner, but I just had to work a lot harder. So I remember like thinking a lot about Stevie and how clever she was and like why I might not be the same way. And then she went to uni and she went to an amazing uni and I just remember always thinking like if I was going to be able to do as well after college or after uni in life because I wasn't as good at school, but kind of just trying to do my best all the time.
That's heartbreaking to hear from my side.
Do you guys both feel that the older you've become and the older you've got, the closer you are and the happier you are for each other's achievements?
Yes.
Yeah,
100%.
massively. I will say that I never felt. I was just about to be like, I never really felt any competition with Gina when I was younger, but that's probably because I was smashing it.
And you were older.
And I was older, and you don't really think about that sort of stuff. But then as you get older, yeah, and more things happen, then I start to like enjoy her successes much more, just in terms of just really enjoying the fact that, yeah, we're like best mates and we work in very different separate fields as well. I mean, I might feel, what's interesting is I don't know if I'd feel differently if we were both writer and comedians, both and Gina was just like in Hollywood and I was here doing some sketches on Twitter. I don't know how that, but I like to think that I would like my frustrations with my own career would be separate to how I felt about Gina and hers, which I think would be the case.
Yeah, I think I feel like we've had moments where we've crossed over and we've talked to each other because we've both been feeling certain type of ways about stuff, but I don't think that was necessarily a competition thing or a jealousy thing so much as like my life changed really quickly in 2 years. And so like when your life changes like that, I think the way your relationships have to shift in some way. And so you have to talk it through. But I think as we've got older, I remember as kids, I mean, we always got on, but we had like tiffs every now and again. But I just remember when I moved to London when I was going to work in advertising, Stevie became really protective of me. And we were in the same city and because you saw me trying to do something and you'd been trying to do something too. We were both in our early 20s and we were really trying and we weren't from here and we didn't have any money and all that stuff. So you became really protective of me, which I think means that when things went well for me, you were like so relieved and so excited for me. And I feel the same with you because I saw you living in, Shadwell and in apartments with maggots and stuff, which you thought was rice. And so, yeah, you just get really excited when things do go well, don't you? And like, I think the gap gets smaller when you get older. You feel like you're basically the same age. Whereas when you're younger, you're like, oh my God, my sister's like 40 and she's like 3 years older.
Yeah, I do. I will say though that there was and I remember it happening and then I remember reflecting on it afterwards. So there was a point in Gina's kind of very quick meteoric rise where I wasn't very well.
Yeah.
And I was on a lot of medication and I was really struggling to have any perspective of anything. And I remember feeling down about how Gina was doing really well and that I wasn't able to enjoy my own life and all of this. And it was only like a month or so. And I talked to Gina about it and I did sort of like, because I thought it was so important to when that feeling of Mudita, is it Mudita?
Yeah.
When that feeling is so like, I would recognize that with Gina constantly. When it wasn't there, it was really obvious and strange. And it needed addressing because I wanted to get back to that place where I was able to purely enjoy what Gina was doing because I knew I did, but I was like it was almost like I was interfered with by all the medication, and so I kind of lost sight of who I was, and that was the biggest symptom. And my boyfriend said to me as well, like, I think you need to get off these pills because you are reacting in a way that I don't recognize towards Gina. I wasn't like fuck Gina. Sorry, I'm doing swear. But I was very much like just unable to feel, and I was worrying about. And I said something that was like comparative, like, oh, I don't have, well, Gina's got loads of like Twitter followers or something, and Adam was like, what? You don't care about that? And then it was resolved pretty much immediately and quickly, and I've never felt that again, which has been really nice.
I think that also it was bad timing too, the specifics that were happening around me at the time. Now it's like you get to a point where you doing a job and you have a certain platform and like there's almost like the dust settles. But when Stevie was going through that, I was in every press, newspaper, TV thing. It was like the law change had just happened, and it was just this massive elation and massive celebration just landed on the exact month where Stevie was struggling to feel like herself. And therefore like everything shifted, and your feelings, my life, and because everything was so fast and 100 miles an hour, like it was hard to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
And it was only because you kind of did that I was able to like really clearly see what was going on, because I was obviously swept up in this massive thing.
Yeah, and you don't want to bring someone down being like, I'm struggling with your success. Like, who wants to be that friend? But I think
it's so important though.
Yeah, otherwise I think it can, if you don't experience Mudita with your friends or specific people, I think it's so important to try and work on yourself and get yourself to a place where you can, because it says more about you than it does about, always more about you than it does about the other person, definitely.
Especially if you felt it previously and then suddenly it's kind of taken away from you, you kind of look around and you think, oh, and I guess there is a feeling of guilt as well there, that you're not feeling it. It's interesting you said that was one of the reasons you knew you weren't quite right, is because you didn't feel that for Gina.
Yeah, it was so stark. And I think as well, feelings like that can be used to fuel your own career, your own whatever it is you're looking at someone else and kind of coveting or not being able to experience Mudita. But then it's when it freezes you and you're unable to use it in like a positive way, because I think I get positive jealousy, like the opposite of Mudita. I think I get that quite a lot, where I'll be like, oh god, I'd love that, and then I have learned how to use that in a positive way, and be like, well, it doesn't affect me that someone else is doing really well at that, because I haven't really had a go at it, so I'll have a go, but yeah, I think it's a good marker of where you are at if you lose something like that, an emotion like that you've had, like a positive emotion that you've had so strongly with somebody. Have you felt like that ever, Gina, about other people? Have you had
I think I felt that about people that I maybe looked up to at one stage, and then no, actually I felt that more for people that like have done kind of similar things to what I've done in my work, I guess, people who are doing similar stuff in my work and who are doing things in a way that I would really like to do them, but I feel like I maybe don't have the access to do them that way because of like my visibility or the way I am and how on my influencer side of my job and all this stuff. So I get like a jealousy thing, but the thing is I don't think I've ever actually felt for really other people apart from like you and my 3 best friends. I don't think I've really felt Mudita with other people. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't feel that strongly about a lot of people. I have a very close, like I really don't. I'm like, that's lovely. I'm like, that's lovely for you. That's great. But I don't have this like visceral, like their joy is my joy thing. That doesn't, you know what I mean? That only exists with like Stevie, my family, and a couple of friends. So I think that's probably a different kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, I think it's not like I don't feel joy for anyone else, but I it's almost like academic hypothetical joy, where I'm like, oh, that's really great for you. How lovely.
Yeah, it's voyeuristic. It's like, oh, look at that. That's great. Whereas with you, it's like when your sketches do so super well, and that sketch went viral, and it was like everybody was talking about it, and everyone was saying like, oh my god, like this woman is like a living sketch, like she's so funny and like she's so adorable and stuff. And I was like, oh my god, the world is seeing like my favorite person exactly as I see her. Like she's so adorable, and I couldn't stop like refreshing everything. And that feeling was like, it was basically happening. It felt like it was happening to me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I really felt like it was my joy too. It was like, oh my god, this is because you're just like, we're literally the same person basically. So it feels like it's my joy. I don't have that with anyone else. I have like, oh, that's amazing, I'm really happy for them, but I don't have that like visceral feeling of like, oh my god, this is my person, and like this is happening basically to me as well.
Yeah, I was going to say visceral is the right word, I think, because I think it's traditionally a more familial feeling. So it is attached to people you're related to, or like you say, very close friends. So that sounds exactly like it. Yeah, it's interesting. It's that pure joy, isn't it? Of just like, I am super happy for you, and I am just on board with everything you do, and I'm happy that you're happy.
Yeah,
basically.
super wholesome.
Yeah, I remember there was a moment in Edinburgh, in the Edinburgh Festival in like 2019, and Gina did. Was it the New York Times?
Yeah. New York Times
Stadium?
stage or something.
Was it called? Yeah, and Student Time stage, and it's this massive stage with so many seats, and we got there quite early, and we were sat there, and then it really filled up. Like it was pretty much full, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people there, and it was the first time that I'd seen. Sorry, yeah, I should make this clear. Gina was doing a tour. No, I just get real Mudita for stages. Like I just love them. But no, she was being interviewed about her book, Be the Change, and which is about like she'd written off the back of changing the law, and it was about how to help sort of anybody make any change anywhere from any kind of level. And like I wouldn't want it, but I wanted to just like stand up and like whoop every time she said anything. I was looking at other people looking at Gina more than I was looking at Gina, because I was like, look, that woman's so like entranced by her words, and like I was crying, like my mum was crying. It was just so amazing. And then afterwards, Ginny really needed the toilet, so like we like ran around Edinburgh trying to find a toilet for like 20 minutes, which really brought it down to earth. But like it was such a magical feeling, and it was such a nice break from the rest of the festival where I was doing a show and I was tired, and you get caught up in your own stuff basically, and you forget that anyone's doing anything else other than yourself, and then you see something like that, and it makes me so proud. And so like I think like Mudita is almost like mixed up with pride as well, because you just get like overwhelmed by all these emotions. So you're just like, yeah.
It's so funny. That's like, I thought you were going to say about the time when you did Coach in the Dome, because when Stevie did a show called Coach with Adam Richards in the Dome, and it was the first time I'd ever seen her do like a sort of comedy acting role where she was like the main part in it, and she was so hilarious and took so many risks and did so much stupid shit to the audience, and just like was so fearless in it. And it was such an amazing show. It was like walking into like pure joy for an hour, and I just forgot about everything in my life. And I watched it, went on my own and watched it, and then I came out and I just sat on the wall outside and cried for like 10 minutes.
I found her, she was crying, and I thought something terrible had happened.
But I was just too overwhelmed with pride, with like surprise. Not that I didn't think that she was capable of that, but I just never expected to walk into a room and see her just like so shamelessly. And so, because in comedy it's like you're so aware of what people think about you, and I'd seen her doing all of her solo shows and like being frustrated and, you know, feeling like she got stuff wrong, and then I just walked in and just like was absolutely slapped around the face for an hour with like this hilarious stuff, and I came out and I just cried, because I was just like, I can't believe you're like, if you weren't my sister, I'd be obsessed with you. Like, it's so amazing. And like, it was the funniest thing ever. And I can't believe how much joy you brought me. I didn't even know what you were doing the whole time. Like, you see your sister just doing this thing and you're like, oh my God, that's what you've been doing for 6 months. And you're this amazing. And like, nobody told me that. Like, I didn't know what you did. This is incredible. It's such an overwhelming feeling.
It's so funny. I was going to say to both of you, how would you celebrate your feelings, like your love and your joy for each other? But both of you seem to explain it already by just saying you just cry, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Just cry.
Yeah, we're both criers. Like, frustrated, cry. Angry, cry. Too proud, have a cry. Like, that's us.
Yeah, it really is. That's the only way I can express it, because I can't express it in any other way. But also as well, I think it's almost like any relationship where if you have such a strong feeling towards somebody else's successes, you become fiercely defensive almost of anybody that dares to not have your admiration. So like on the opposite side, when Gina gets trolled or gets nasty comments on social media, I think sometimes I feel them more than she feels them.
Yeah.
And then same now that I've kind of got a little bit more popularity with the sketches and got a few more followers and a few more, I then get more and more kind of guys,
and they're all guys. Stevie has all guys. I'll generalize.
It's all very horny men that comment things like, you just comment kind of like bizarre things, and I'll just leave it. But then I'll see like someone's like deployed Gina like a little general into my Twitter, and she's like, "Excuse me, what's that?"
Yeah,
So
literally,
good.
like, I'll go through her YouTube comments. Yesterday, I found this guy who was like, "Hey, Stevie, you're so funny, but you're also so attractive." And I was wondering if you have an OnlyFans. And I was like, "Hey, Mike, I'd really appreciate if you could just let Stevie do her job and not assume that she's there for your sexual consumption. Thanks a lot, Gina." like, you get so defensive because you've seen the hard days, though, which were years, which were decades of hard days. So when you finally reach this thing that you've been doing and you've been doing forever, and then people are there like, either just ripping you apart, yes, of course, but also just undermining what you're doing. I'm like, no, none of that, thanks. Like, you get
You've
really
really hit
defensive
upon
with each
something
other.
there, though, because I think actually the idea of seeing the hard days is such an important element of experiencing this emotion, because if you don't see the hard, so it means that, because there are some people that I'm not as close to, but I would feel real joy if they got something because I've seen them struggle. And I think with a lot of people, you might wonder why you don't feel that emotion or why you can't be happy for them. And it's because sometimes people just, with social media especially, they can maybe do one post saying like things be hard, and you're like, yeah, sure, but actually you haven't seen the months and months of work that have gone into it. So it makes it almost difficult to experience joy for somebody often, because it just looks like they woke up and were like, probably going to do this, and then smashed it. But that is never ever the way it happened.
Totally agree.
So that was Stevie and Gina Martin. They were super kind to let me chat about their relationship and the different changes and stages it had gone through, and it was really interesting to hear which parts of the other's career had most affected them personally. I think they're right, that thing of needing to see someone's downs to appreciate their ups really makes sense, although it hadn't actually occurred to me before Stevie and Gina mentioned it, so good job they were here. I can definitely understand how it makes you appreciate someone even more. And as I said earlier, appreciation of the other person is a pretty important start in the feeling of Mudita. So there we go, a wholesome joy for someone else. Maybe you felt it for your partner, son, dog, I don't know. Maybe you're yet to feel it, and that's okay too. Maybe someone feels it for you and you've got no idea. Isn't that a lovely thought? This is Getting Emotional, and that was Mudita. Big thanks to Stevie and Gina Martin for chatting to me, and thank you for listening. Please do rate, review, subscribe, and you can find me on Twitter at GetEmotionalPod. See you next time, bye.